was going to finish a bit early, but if you guys, I'll just quickly go through some of the Marvel stuff. I've mentioned a few things so far. So, as I was saying, this is also Disney. So, two biggest franchises. Very, 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 very clearly planned. Movies are planned. The movie series are planned at least 10 years in advance, usually. So you'll notice if you go to their things, they've pegged release dates for films that they haven't come up with what the title or what they're going to be yet, because the idea is that they release at certain times of the year and that there will be a film to put there. So I guess this idea of the transmedia universe, that these films are part of the same story world, so you can be constantly making sure people remember, give them more, give them more, give them more, but by making it, you know, not just, you know, Captain America, Captain America, Captain America, where you're going to get thoroughly sick of that, it's kind of staggering it, you know, series by series. So the idea of sort of having carefully integrated series there is important, as is I guess the integration with the television narrative, which is also building up to a larger picture, as I mentioned before, in the Netflix ones, which are a lot darker, and then there's the family ones on ABC, which is Disney's network, that are more family friendly. There are lots of different suggestions for viewing orders, of course. And I guess this then speaks to the narrative. It's more being quite complex, because it's not like where you could go, oh, I need to watch 1 to 7 through of the films, and then I can watch episode 8. You know, Captain America Winter Soldier comes in the middle of the narrative of the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show. So there's... you don't have to watch any of this in any given order. There are, I guess, standalone components, and then you can go and catch up with things in any order that you like, in a way, which is, you know, a piece of marketing brilliance, really, and scheduling brilliance. It does get very complicated in lots of different things, and this is phase 1. We're up to phase 3 now, of, you know, what happens at various times and who connects to who and all this sort of thing. So if you think about this sort of idea of intertextuality, the casual viewer does not need to know any of this, but it rewards it rewards the viewer who has, as Jenkins says, that encyclopedic impulse to go, oh, what are they talking about? How does this, is this happening before that? And kind of trying to figure out the story world in that kind of a way. Is it related to this?
Yeah, I was just going to say, when you came up with the list of all the movies, I've noticed that I've actually seen all of the ones that are out so far.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's right. But I watched them gradually as they came out, so I didn't
Yeah.
feel like I was just like binging the entire thing.
And that's really, I guess, the important aspect of having those different characters and different sort of series within a larger universe, instead of having one character going through all the universe where it seems too much, too intense. You'd be watching, you know, Thor 44 by now, you know. So these are just all the Thor connections into the different things. And this is the MCU, which is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is different from the Marvel Comics universe, which has about, I don't know, however many different versions of itself, or alternate worlds of itself. So the connection between film and comics now that you'll notice a lot of is that comics provide a ready source of stories and a brand recognition of characters. And that is very helpful. Film is in, as we talked about last week, film is in a bad situation in terms of having to compete with lots of different platforms now. So they need to make films that are big and epic and are going to attract people. So things like superhero films are the perfect films for that, and we've seen a massive increase, as you saw in that list of the films, in things like superhero films. So obviously these are... This one is so prettily set out. I quite like it. So here we're obviously talking about serial narratives. Then that idea that they're grouped, but that they will then lead up to a big film that brings them all together. So if you watch The Avengers and you've never watched Hulk, but you've watched the other ones, you might then go, oh, okay, I'll go and see what the deal is with Hulk. And thus it sort of, I guess, provides that idea of narrative layers. So although the narratives are kind of interlinked, they do tend to be still these sort of hero's quest sort of, or sort of standardized narratives that we recognize. And thus it's mostly the character as well as the narrative structure, rather than having a strict ongoing narrative from series to series that anchors it. I'll go past this.
Tell me about the evolution.
So these are some figures for Marvel Productions. So when we say box office, that's just what is at the cinemas. This does not count for toys, DVDs, anything like that. So you can see that US, yeah. So you can see that we're talking about a fairly solid amount of money. What's the effect then is how are you to compete with that as a newcomer? It's a juggernaut of even for a big studio to compete with, that's an absolute juggernaut of films with brand recognition, with pre-existing stories and characters that people know and know what they're getting when they go to the cinema. There then becomes also a limitation on time slots, so you can't release more than a certain number of films at the same time, or you shouldn't, and thus if they've booked up films for the next release dates for the next 10 years, it can kind of create some limitations in what can be shown, what can be sold. And I guess it then relies on other brands becoming, other franchises becoming increasingly reliant on the sort of the world of backstories and so forth. So I will leave it there. Thanks, guys. Hope to see you in the workshops.